Alright, Green Thinker, so here we are at the Ginkgo tree and or the Maiden's Hair tree. Now this is a female tree, as you can tell, because it has the fruit on it. These trees do not self-pollinate, so you will need to find a female tree that has been pollinated, and there is another Ginkgo tree right over there, so that is how it has been pollinated. This tree is full of fruit. As you can see, all up in the branches, all over the place, is these little berries that are kind of a green color, but they turn red as they ripen up. The ginkgo tree is beautiful, but the seeds will need cold stratification in order to germinate. So we're going to go ahead and collect these little berries. Inside is one seed, and then we're going to take that and move on to the next step, which is going to be preparing them for cold stratification. Now I will say you're definitely going to want to wear gloves when you handle these tree seeds, just because they do have a very sour, kind of rotten smell. It's pretty unpleasant, unfortunately, but after you go ahead and collect them, you wash them off and whatnot, and we'll go ahead and show that in the next step. But just a reminder, definitely want to wear gloves and have baggies to put the seeds in.
Okay, so it's been a couple days, guys, and we've let our ginkgo berries sit out, and they've gotten pretty pruny. These do smell absolutely horrible, and they are kind of seeping a little bit of a moist liquid if you squeeze them. So when you move on to this step, and this is going to be actually taking them out of like the fruit shell, you want to make sure you have gloves. Unfortunately, I personally don't have any gloves right now, so I'm just going to be using another Walmart bag. But what we're simply going to do is just take our ginkgo berries and have a little container, pull off the stems, set those aside, but just go ahead and squeeze out our ginkgo berry, and it should pop out just like that. And then we're going to just go ahead and set the fruit part to the side. But this is what a ginkgo seed looks like by itself. It's full of pulp. Seeds are pretty big, probably around the size of a nickel. But this is what the ginkgo seeds actually look like outside of the fruit, and this is what we're going after. So what I'm going to do is just go through all of our little ginkgo berries, squeeze out the fruit, or the nut I should say, excuse me, and just set them apart in our little container here. And then what we're going to move on to is just rinsing and washing these out. But please, guys, if you're doing this, make sure you have a glove or wear a bag over your hand or something, because this stinks so bad, and the smell will stick on you. It's hard to get off even after washing your hands. I got some on my arm. It hung out for a while, but again, real easy. Once you pull the stem off, it's like a little cherry, and the seed just kind of pops right on out, and there's not really too much of that pulp that sticks to the seed. But that's pretty much it for this step, and then we're just going to move on to rinsing these, and I'll show that after I go ahead and process quite a few of these seeds. Alright, so here we are with our cleaned up ginkgo seeds, and they look really good once you clean them up and you get all that nasty, horrible smelling, rancid, fleshy fruit shell off. But all we're going to be moving on to is we're just going to go ahead and put our ginkgo seeds through cold stratification, which is going to be a process that they need in order to germinate. So if you do not cold stratify your ginkgo seeds, you're not going to see them root, and they're just not going to germinate. You're never going to get a ginkgo sapling. It's just a part of the natural process that they need in order to break down. It's like the seed embryo on the inside for it to start germination and begin rooting. So what I've done is I've just washed out my ginkgo seeds pretty well, just with some clean water, and rinsed them a couple of times. So they're nice, they've been moist, and what we're just going to do is move them into our bag. I did date it. This is just moist peat moss, so literally all we're going to do is just load up our bag here. And I did put a lot of peat moss, don't know if I'll need all of it. But we're just going to go ahead and load up our bag here. I'm going to stir it up pretty good just so the seeds themselves actually get covered. I might as well just dump it in there. There's not too much water in there. We're just going to go ahead and stir it. And what I'm going to be doing, guys, is just taking these ginkgo seeds and putting them in the refrigerator for the duration of the winter time, and then sowing them out here in pots once it is springtime here in Middle Tennessee. Again, it is October 11th, so we're probably going to be looking at late February, early March when I take these out and actually go ahead and plant them in the pots so they can sprout into young ginkgo seeds. But right here, guys, that's going to wrap up this step of the process, and I'm going to follow up after the winter period has gone through and they're out of the fridge and it's springtime here and it's time to actually plant them in the pots, so then we can move on to having our sprouted ginkgo seeds. It's really simple, putting in the refrigerator. I like doing this method because it's really controlled. You got a clean bag right here. It's dated. You can monitor it a lot better. What you can also do is just take the seeds and put them in a pot like we're going to do in the springtime, and just put them outside to go through the fall time and the wintertime stratification period outside. So if you don't have room in your refrigerator, or say you have a small one or whatnot, you can actually do it yourself just by planting them wherever you'd want them, in a pot and or at your planting location outside, and then just waiting for it to go through the process naturally. So that's gonna be it for this step, and I'll catch you guys in the next part. So here we are. It has been roughly 7 months, which is way too long. These should have been taken out early March, if not a little bit before March. Honestly, it is. We started these October 11th. Today, I think it is May 2nd. So it has been absolutely crazy. I've been super busy, so I have not been able to monitor these guys really as much as I'd like to, and or plant them as nearly as soon as I'd like to. But I will say this: I didn't see any of these ginkgo seeds rooting in the bag when I took them out of the refrigerator, and then I had them outside for like a week just sitting in my porch. It wasn't sunny or anything, and they're actually already starting to root, excuse just a little bit, in the bag. So I'm super stoked, super excited to know that these are good stratified germinating seeds, and we're ready to go. So what we're gonna do is, once you take your ginkgo seeds out of stratification, and again, these didn't have any rootage in them when I first took them out, so yours might look the same with no rootage. But so we have some rootage, so we know some good ones are there, but we're just gonna go ahead and pour out our ginkgo seeds. I believe I did quite a few of these, like a lot, because I'd never done ginkgos before. And then we're just gonna gently take our peat moss and roll it around, get a couple rolling off the table. It's not a big deal, but wow, look at this germination we have going on right here already with some of our ginkgo seeds. And I can already see there's probably around 30 in here that have germinated and are ready to go. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna take our ginkgo seeds that have already germinated, and that is the ones that already have it showing a little bit of rootage on them, like these and these, and we're gonna go ahead and pot them. And all we're gonna do is dig a hole probably around, 3/4 of an inch to an inch deep, and just very, very gently, I'll bring you guys in, very gently set our seed in it, and then just go ahead and backfill it with the soil we're using. Now the soil I'm using is simply just, I think it's just topsoil or potting soil, whatever it is, from Lowe's. And that's honestly all I use for when I'm starting out seeds, just because when you want to mix in your native soil, absolutely, that's what you want to do when you're about to transplant or you're doing larger and larger pots. But for now, since these are so young and they're just now germinating, we want to keep them, moist and mature and all that good stuff, bring them to maturity. I just went with a potting soil, a garden soil, whatever, so it has some nutrients in it, and I can go ahead and water and just know that it's going to stay moist and wet. My native soil out here in Tennessee is clay. Clay doesn't hold water very well. It's kind of nutrient deficient depending on exactly where you're at, so using potting soil for early seeds, germination and all that is my recommendation. Okay, sorry about that, I had an interruption, but what we're gonna do is we're just gonna keep our ginkgo seeds in the soil, keep the soil nice and moist, and go ahead and monitor these guys for the first couple of weeks. And then afterwards, we should be seeing that stem starting to pop out of the soil and root. The roots are gonna be growing deeper and rooting and spreading, but that stem should eventually poke through the soil, hopefully within a week or so. If not, it can take a couple of weeks depending on different trees. But that is what we're going to be waiting for. So that is going to be it for this clip. When you're handling your ginkgo seeds and they are stratified and they are already germinated in the bag, you do want to be careful. You don't want to snap off these little, like the white hair root, because if you snap that main root off, you might just kill the whole seed. And on top of that, if you're only doing a couple of them, that would really stink if you went through the whole process just to lose them here. So this is great results. I'm going to catch you guys in the next clip, which is going to be a couple weeks out, and I'll catch you then. Hey friends, so here we are with our ginkgo tree seeds. It is actually October 31st as of filming this video, and it has been a very long time since the last clip, and I apologize for not having more videos in between, more clips in between showing the growth of these saplings, but this is our ginkgo trees as of now. Now they have been growing in these pots for, pretty much all summer and spring, and I have just not been able to properly monitor and water as much as I'd want. As you can see, some are yellowing out, they need more water, and transplant them when they need it. But nonetheless, these trees are thriving and doing great. These trees, the ginkgo trees, have proven to be very resilient to a small amount of water. A lot of them have rooted through into the ground below, but this one is in an extremely small pot and it's still doing great. But nonetheless, once your ginkgo seeds have sprouted, you're going to want to plant them into a pot like this size, something like this. That's enough room in there for them to get good rootage. But, once the seed has taken well, you'd want to go ahead and you have, the sapling this size, you'd want to transplant it to a pot like this.
A pot like that is going to have enough room for the roots to really get way better, well established, to spread all the way out and around, and then you're going to get growth on that sapling, which is obviously what we want, because these, as good as they look this many months into the process, they should be a lot taller. I mean, we should be looking at, you know, I'd say at least 1.5 to 2 foot big sapling through this growing season, just because these have been this height for many months. I just haven't had the time to transplant them, so I know they've been stunted. So nonetheless, that is going to be the completed tutorial on how to grow ginkgo trees from seed. They look incredible, they're beautiful, you know, again called the angel hair tree, and I'm excited to have this tutorial complete. Definitely an amazing tree, really gorgeous, really cool bark pattern, as well as just some, you know, beautiful fruit that unfortunately smells pretty bad. But that is going to be it for this tutorial, y'all. Really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one.